He wasn't a criminal. He was an accountant, a father of two, the kind of man who coached Little League and paid his taxes early. But 3 weeks ago, he saw something he shouldn't have. And when SWAT broke down his door at 3 a.m., his wife thought it was about drugs. It wasn't. They weren't looking for evidence. They were delivering a message. By morning, the message was received, and the witness was dead. My name is David Harrington. I've been investigating crimes for 24 years. I left the FBI because sometimes the system makes doing the right thing impossible. Now I work independently. I investigate cold cases, and some of them lead me to the darkest secrets within police departments. This case was exactly that, because sometimes the greatest danger comes from the people who are supposed to protect you. In March of 2024, my phone rang. It was 2 in the morning. Generally, calls at midnight are one of two types. Either there's an emergency, or the caller is so desperate they can't wait until morning. This was the latter. Mr. Harrington, my name is Rachel Thompson. My husband, they murdered my husband. The police are calling it suicide, but I know he didn't kill himself, and nobody believes me. Please, I need you. Her voice trembled, but the words were clear, determined. She wasn't crying, because she wasn't in a position to waste time crying. That's always a sign to me. People in grief act irrationally, make emotional decisions, but Rachel was different. She was angry, and anger is a more powerful motivator than grief. Tell me, I said, from the beginning, every detail. Rachel talked for an hour on the phone, without pausing, as if she'd rehearsed this story 100 times in her head. Every word was in place, every detail sharp and precise. That was another sign to me, because people who lie constantly change their stories, but people who tell the truth tell the same thing every time, because there's only one version of the truth. Meet me at my office tomorrow, I said, and bring everything you have. Police reports, autopsy file, suicide note, everything. The next day, when Rachel came to my office, her face bore the marks of 3 weeks without sleep. Dark circles under her eyes, hair undone, clothes that looked like they'd been worn since yesterday. But her eyes, in her eyes was that sharp, laser-like focus. The look of someone who's moved from victim to survivor. She brought a plastic file box with her. Inside were dozens of documents, police reports, autopsy report, photographs, news clippings cut from newspapers, and an envelope. Inside was the suicide note. Read this first, she said. She placed her hands on the desk. The hands were trembling, but her voice wasn't. Read it and tell me, does this look like my husband wrote this note? I opened the envelope. Inside was white paper, A4 size, standard printer paper. On it was typed text, Dear Rachel, I can't live with the shame of what happened tonight. Tell the children to forgive their father. This is all my fault. I'm sorry for being weak. I always loved you. Michael. Below it was a signature, shaky but legible. Michael Thompson. Is this his handwriting? I asked. The signature is, but the note isn't. Michael never used a typewriter. Do you understand? He was dyslexic. Since childhood, teachers made fun of him throughout school because he mixed up letters, spelled words wrong. As an adult, that trauma was still inside him. So when he had to write something important, he always wrote by hand. He'd form the words one by one, check them. He hated writing on a computer because even autocorrect made him feel bad about himself. Rachel paused, took a breath, and said the most important detail, and he would never call me Rachel. Never. Not in 12 years. From the day we first met, he called me Bear, Little Bear, because on our first date in college I was wearing a sweater with a bear pattern. That was our joke. Every love letter, every note, every message said Bear. If Michael had written a suicide note, it would say, Dear Bear, not Dear Rachel. That's when I knew. Rachel was right. This was a fake suicide note. Tell me what happened that night, I said. But before that, tell me something else. What Michael saw. The incident 3 weeks ago. Let's start there. Rachel told me. February 10th, Wednesday evening. Michael had left work late. He was working on year-end financial statements at a client's office. Michael was an accountant, remember. He consulted for small businesses. That evening his client had closed the office at 8 and told Michael, "Stay until you finish, lock the door when you leave." Michael finished past 10. He shut down his computer, filed the papers, left the office. The building was a small business center, 3 floors, 12 offices, usually deserted at night. So was the parking lot. Michael got in his car. He was about to start the engine when he noticed a police car was parking in the opposite corner of the lot. Lights off. 2 officers getting out. At first, Michael didn't suspect anything. Maybe routine patrol. Maybe an alarm went off in the building. But then he noticed the officers looked like they were in uniform, but their behavior was different. They moved quickly but quietly, looking around as if they didn't want to be seen. And then a black SUV entered the parking lot. Lights off. Slowly, almost silently, it pulled up next to the police car. Michael was curious now. What was happening? Instinctively, he pulled out his phone, hit record, because something was wrong. And accountants are detail-oriented. They like to document everything. 3 men got out of the SUV. They were in civilian clothes, jeans, jackets, baseball caps. Their faces were hard to make out in the semi-darkness, but their body language was aggressive, tense. They opened the trunk, pulled out 3 large duffel bags, military style, dark-colored, zippers closed. They looked heavy. One man staggered, carrying a bag. The police officers opened their own car trunk. The civilians placed the bags in the officer's trunk. One by one. 3 bags. The officers checked each bag, unzipped them, and looked inside, nodded their heads. Okay signal. And then one of the civilians, tall, bearded, pulled out an envelope. Thick, brown envelope. Handed it to the officers. The tall officer, about 6 feet, broad-shouldered, took the envelope, opened it, looked inside, and Michael saw it. Money. A thick stack. Hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars. The officer counted the money, quickly but carefully, then nodded, put the envelope in his pocket. They shook hands, all of them, like they'd just closed a business deal. The transaction took a minute and a half. Professional, organized, like a routine. Michael recorded everything. The officers' faces were clearly visible. The vehicle's license plates could be read clearly. The transfer of bags, the exchange of money, everything was on video. And then one of the officers, short, bald, turned and scanned the parking lot. His eyes caught Michael's car. He looked for a few seconds. Michael froze, didn't move, didn't breathe. Then the bald officer said something to his partner. Together they started walking toward Michael's car. Michael panicked and started the engine. The headlights came on. The officers stopped. Michael hit the gas, drove the car out of the parking lot. He was looking in his mirror. The officers were watching the car from behind, reading the license plate. Michael drove home fast. His hands were shaking on the steering wheel. He could hear his heart. What had he seen? What had he recorded? And most importantly, had the officers seen him? When he got home, it was 11:30. Rachel was watching TV in the living room. When Michael came through the door, Rachel saw his face and immediately understood. What happened? Michael didn't answer. He went to the children's rooms. Both were asleep. 7-year-old Emma, 5-year-old Lucas. Michael looked at each of their faces for a long time, as if seeing them for the last time. He kissed their cheeks, stroked their hair. Rachel was starting to get scared. "Michael, what happened? Talk to me." Michael finally spoke. "I saw something I shouldn't have seen, and now I don't know what to do." "What did you see?" Michael pulled out his phone, started playing the video. Rachel watched. Within 30 seconds, she understood everything. "You recorded police officers." "Michael, this is very dangerous." "I know, but what should I do? Should I ignore it? Should I act like it never happened? Rachel thought. The truth is, they both knew the answer. They couldn't ignore it. Because Michael wasn't that kind of person. He was the kind who did the right thing. In Little League coaching, he'd bench kids who cheated. He paid his taxes in full. If he found a wallet on the ground, he'd return it to the owner. He was a man of principle. Let's go to a lawyer tomorrow, Rachel said. They'll tell us what we need to do. But that night, Michael couldn't sleep. He looked out the window, tensed up at every passing car, because he knew the officers had seen his license plate. They would find him. The next day, Michael didn't go to work. He stayed home, kept the curtains closed, wasn't answering his phone. Rachel got worried. Maybe we should go to the police, the FBI, show them the video. What if they're part of the system too? What if they're all part of a network? That evening a car came. It stopped in front of the house for 5 minutes. The engine was running. Nobody got out. They just waited. Michael looked out through the curtain and froze. It was the officers he'd seen last night in the parking lot. They weren't looking at him. They were just there. The message was clear. We can find you. We're watching you. The car left after 5 minutes. But the damage was done. Michael no longer felt safe in his own home. The next morning, Michael went to a lawyer. His name was Thomas Brennan, an honest lawyer who worked alone in a small office. Michael explained the situation, showed him the video. Brennan watched with a serious expression. This is very dangerous, Mr. Thompson. The police officers you're showing here are committing serious crimes, drug trafficking, bribery, maybe even organized crime. And if they recognized you, they did. They saw my license plate. Brennan thought. Your options are: 1. Go to the FBI. They'll start a federal investigation. 2. Go to the media. Get the story published. 3. Do nothing and delete this video. But I don't recommend the third option, because they've already found you, and if they think you're a threat... Michael understood. There was no going back now. I want to go to the FBI, but don't I have to report to local police first? Isn't that the legal procedure? Technically, yes. But in this case, I recommend you speak directly with federal authorities. But Michael was undecided, because maybe there was a mistake. Maybe he'd misunderstood. Maybe there was an explanation. He was a fair man. He should give everyone a chance. That afternoon, Michael went to the local police station. He told the receptionist, I want to speak with the Corruption Investigations Unit. 10 minutes later, a detective came. Middle-aged, grey hair, serious face. I'm Detective Frank Lawson. How can I help you? Michael was taken to an interview room. He showed the video. Lawson watched. His expression didn't change. He just watched. These are serious allegations, Mr. Thompson. Do you know these officers? No, but their plates are visible in the video. Can you leave the video with me? We need to examine it. Michael hesitated. I want to keep the video. I can give you a copy. Of course, I understand. Can you copy it to a USB for me? Michael copied it. Lawson took the USB. We'll examine this. We'll get back to you. In the meantime, does anyone else know? My wife and a lawyer. I see. Mr. Thompson, this is a very sensitive matter. Please don't share this with anyone else. It could jeopardize the investigation. When Michael got home, he was a bit relieved. I did the right thing, he told Rachel. Now it's their job. We'll just wait. But that night, another car came. This time it parked closer, right in front of the house. And this time its headlights were on, pointing directly at the house window. It stayed for an hour, then left. Michael didn't sleep at all that night, because he understood. Lawson had shared his video. He hadn't protected it. On the contrary, he'd shared it with exactly the officers who were in the video. The next day, Michael decided to go to the FBI, but first he wanted to back up the video. He uploaded it to cloud storage, to his work account, to Rachel's account, even emailed it to his lawyer, so that if something happened, the evidence wouldn't be lost. And that evening, he held his children longer than usual. Daddy loves you so much. Never forget that, he said. Emma looked at him strangely. Dad, are you okay? I'm fine, little bear. I just wanted to remind you how much I value you. They ate dinner together. Michael acted normal, but Rachel noticed something in his eyes. The look of someone saying goodbye. That night after Michael put the children to bed, he turned to Rachel. "Whatever happens, I loved you, and everything will be okay." "Michael, I'm scared." "You don't need to be scared. Tomorrow I'm going to the FBI. I'll tell them everything, and they'll protect us." Rachel hugged him. "Promise me. Promise me. You'll be careful." "I promise, Bear." Those were the last words Michael said to Rachel. Because that night when Rachel woke up, Michael wasn't in bed. It was 3 in the morning. Maybe he went to the bathroom, she thought. But something was wrong. The silence was different. She went downstairs. Michael wasn't in the living room, not in the kitchen. The garage door was slightly ajar. When Rachel opened the door, she saw Michael was hanging, swinging from a rope hanging from the garage ceiling. His eyes were closed. His skin was cold. Rachel screamed. But the real story starts here, because when the police came, the commander, Sergeant David Mills, was very empathetic. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Thompson. Your husband apparently committed suicide. He left a note." Mills showed an envelope. Rachel didn't recognize it. "Where was this found?" "In your bedroom drawer. It's signed." Rachel read the note. She didn't recognize it, because this wasn't Michael's writing style, but at that moment she was in shock. She couldn't think. She could only cry. The police left the house within an hour. "There'll be an autopsy, but it's an open case. Suicide. We're very sorry." Rachel was left alone. The children were asleep upstairs. How would she tell them? How would she explain that their father had killed himself? But when morning came, Rachel noticed something. The alarm system in the garage was disabled. It had been broken after the SWAT raid. It was supposed to be repaired, but it hadn't been. Why? And she couldn't find Michael's phone. The police had taken it as evidence, but they didn't return it. And the suicide note, typed. Michael never used a typewriter. The pieces were starting to come together. And Rachel understood. Her husband hadn't committed suicide. He'd been murdered. And the killers wore badges. That's why she called me. I assembled my team. First, I called Jake Morrison. Jake was a former Detroit cop, 30 years experience. He was an insider. "Jake, I need information about a wrong address SWAT raid. Is there an official record?" Jake got back to me in a few days. "David, there's no official report. It appears no team went to that address that night. It's not in the system records, not in dispatch, nowhere." "How is that possible?" "Only one way it's possible. If the team that did the raid is the team that records it. If the SWAT commander chooses not to record his own raid, nobody asks, because everyone assumes there's approval from a higher authority. So someone on the inside." "Yes, and not just one person, a group, because a SWAT raid requires at least 8 people. They all have to be complicit in this operation." This was scary, because we weren't talking about 1 or 2 corrupt officers. We were talking about an organized network. I showed Sam Reeves the autopsy report. Sam examined the medical records. "David, there's an inconsistency here. In classic hanging cases, the cervical spine breaks at the C2 or C3 level. But Michael's neck isn't broken, just soft tissue damage, signs of strangulation. What does that mean?" 2 possibilities. Either Michael slowly suffocated, which is an atypical suicide method. People usually jump from high up for instant death. Or he was unconscious before he died. So he might have been knocked out first. Yes, we can request a toxicology report. If there's sedative in his system, that's not consistent with suicide. Sam applied for a toxicology report, but the police report said not necessary. Sam insisted anyway, used an independent laboratory, analyzed the remaining blood samples. 2 weeks later, the results came. Michael's blood had high doses of midazolam, a powerful sedative, used in hospitals before surgical procedures, not found on the street. Where could this have come from? I asked. A healthcare professional. Or Someone with access to medical supplies, for example, emergency response teams, paramedics, and yes, police. That's when I understood. This wasn't suicide. This was an execution. I asked Marcus Chen for a psychological profile of the case. Marcus examined all the documents, Michael's background, his behavior patterns. David, Michael's profile isn't a suicide profile. On the contrary, he was a life-connected, family-focused, future-oriented individual. In his last days, he spent more time with his children. This is protective behavior. Someone about to commit suicide distances themselves from their children, tries to prepare them. Michael did the opposite. He got even closer. But what about those farewell behaviors? Yes, he said goodbye, but not for suicide, because he was aware of the danger. Michael knew something could happen to him. He could be killed. That's why he told his children, "Daddy loves you." He used present tense, not loved. Loves. This is an expression of an ongoing bond. Someone about to commit suicide uses past tense, says "I loved." Michael said "I love." So he wasn't really planning to die that night. No. His plan was to fight, to go to the FBI, but first he slept, and he was attacked in his sleep. This scenario made sense. Michael slept, next to his wife. He felt safe, because tomorrow he'd solve everything. But at night someone came, quietly. The alarm was disabled, the doors were open. They entered Michael's room, injected midazolam. Michael passed out in seconds, couldn't resist. Then they hung him in the garage, staged the scene, left the note, and left. A 45-minute job. Clean, professional. Elena Cortez found lawyer Thomas Brennan. Brennan didn't want to talk at first. There's attorney-client privilege. Your client is dead, Elena said sharply, and his killers are free, and maybe they're finding the next victim. If you stay silent, the next death is on your conscience. Brennan hesitated. Finally he spoke. Michael showed me a video, a recording showing police officers doing a drug deal. I asked him, "Did you show the video to anyone?" He said no. Only his wife knew. I told him, "This is dangerous. You need to go to the FBI. But first, back up the video. Upload it everywhere, because if they found you, they'll try to seize the phone." Michael said he would. We planned to meet again the next day, but we never met again. Where is the video now? I don't know. The police took Michael's phone, but maybe he backed it up somewhere else. I asked Rachel, did Michael use cloud storage, online accounts? Rachel thought, yes, he had Dropbox for work files and Google Drive, but I don't know the passwords. Sam stepped in. We don't need the password. If Rachel's computer previously logged into Michael's accounts, the browser remembers passwords. Rachel, did Michael ever do work on your laptop? Yes, constantly. When his computer was at the office and he worked from home, he used mine. Sam took Rachel's computer, checked browser history, saved passwords, and found it. The Google Drive account was set to auto-login. Sam accessed the account, and there it was, a video file. Parking lot Feb 10, .mp4. Sam downloaded the video, started playing it. We all watched. 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Parking lot, night, police car, civilian SUV, 3 duffel bags, money envelope, handshake, license plates, faces. Everything was on record, and I recognized one of those faces, because that face was always on the local news. He gave speeches at community events. He'd won Officer of the Year award. He gave anti-drug seminars to children at schools. His name was Sergeant David Mills. He'd been on duty for 20 years, model officer, good father, philanthropist, and now we knew, drug trafficker, and probably a killer. I took the video straight to the FBI, Boston field office. I met with Special Agent Catherine Ross. Ross was an experienced, serious agent. She specialized in police corruption cases. "This is very serious," Ross said. "But I'll be honest with you, Mr. Harrington. This is just one drug deal. A crime, yes, but we need to see the bigger picture. How many people are involved? How long has it been going on? How big is the network? A man was murdered. I know, and we'll investigate that too. But if we only arrest 1 or 2 officers, the rest of the network goes underground. We want to expose everything. That requires time and evidence. Ross made a plan. A covert investigation, internal operations, follow Mills and his team, wiretapping, surveillance, and most importantly, reinvestigate Michael's death. But we had to be careful doing this, because if Mills suspected anything, he'd destroy evidence, silence witnesses, maybe more people would die. Ross mobilized her team. A federal jury approved. Phones were tapped. Cars were marked with GPS, and an undercover agent was placed in a position close to Mills's team. It took 6 months. 6 long months. During this time, Rachel had to wait and hide, because Mills was still free, and if Mills found out Rachel had started an investigation, Elena protected Rachel. They moved to a different state, took fake names. The children started at a new school. Every day, Rachel knew her husband's killers were free, but she endured, because she knew eventually justice would be served. And at the end of the 6th month, the FBI had collected enough evidence, 12 separate drug deals by Mills's team, $4 million in bribes total, connections with 8 different cartel members, and most importantly, direct connection to Michael's death. Because while the FBI was tapping Mills's phone, they recorded a conversation. Mills to one of his team members, "Did we handle the Thompson problem?" The other person, "Yes. Clean job. Looked like suicide." Mills, "Good. Any other videos?" Answer, "No. We wiped the phone, checked cloud accounts, everything's deleted." Mills, "You sure?" "Yes, but the wife could still be a problem. If she's still suspicious." Mills, "I'll deal with the wife, but wait first. If we move too fast, we'll draw attention." This recorded conversation confirmed everything. Mills had killed Michael, or at least given the order. The FBI moved in. One morning, simultaneous raids at 6 different addresses. Mills was arrested at home. Other members of his team too. 14 arrests total. Cash, drugs, weapons, and most importantly, documents. Records of a 30-year corruption network. Names, dates, amounts, all written down. Mills didn't resist during the arrest. He just looked. There was no expression of regret, just acceptance, because he knew this was inevitable. One day he'd be caught. In the interrogation room, Mills talked because he could make a deal. The FBI offered him full confession, expose the entire network, get 40 years instead of life. Mills consulted his lawyer, thought about it, and accepted. "It started 30 years ago," Mills said. "I was a young officer, patrol on the street. One night I caught a drug dealer. He had 5 kilos of cocaine on him and $10,000 cash. I should take him to the station, but he made me an offer. $5,000. Let me go. Nobody saw. I accepted. $5,000. My salary back then was $2,000 a month. $5,000 was like a fortune. And I took it. And I let him go. And then, more came. More offers. More money. And I couldn't say no, because I was already in the system. They knew about my first bribe. They could threaten me, but they didn't threaten me, because I was one of them now. A partner." "Why did you kill Michael Thompson?" Mills paused. For the first time he showed real emotion, not regret. Exhaustion, because he'd videotaped us, and that video could destroy a 30-year organization. Not just me, 12 men, careers, retirements, families. If that video came out, we were all finished. "So you decided to kill him?" "No. At first we just scared him. SWAT raid, delivered a message, stay quiet or your family gets hurt. But he decided to go to the FBI. His lawyer told us he was going to apply for witness protection. That's when I knew I had to stop him." "How did you kill him?" Mills told every detail. Midazolam injection, hanging in garage, leaving note. "It took 40 minutes. 2 people went, me and Dawson. His wife was asleep upstairs, children too. Nobody heard anything. By morning, it looked like suicide, a clean job. Do you regret it? Mills thought. A long silence. Then yes, but not just because I got caught. Because Michael was a good man. He was trying to do the right thing. And I killed him for the worst thing I'm guilty of. I devoted 30 years of my life to corruption, and I killed a good man to hide it. Yes, I regret it, but that doesn't change anything. The trial started in October 2024. Mills and 13 other defendants faced 37 charges: first-degree murder, organized crime, drug trafficking, bribery, obstruction of justice, falsification in official documents, arms trafficking. Rachel took the witness stand. The courtroom was silent. Rachel leaned into the microphone and spoke. My husband, Michael, was a good man, the best man. He was a loyal husband to me, a perfect father to his children, a contributing citizen to society. He paid his taxes, he coached Little League, he helped his neighbors, and he did the right thing, always. Rachel paused, tried to hold back tears. That night he saw something wrong, and he couldn't stay silent, because that was Michael. That was the right thing, and I told him, maybe we should ignore it. Maybe it's dangerous. But he said, no, Bear. Staying silent is also a choice, and I can't choose to be on the wrong side. And they killed him. While he slept in his bed, while his children were downstairs, while I was sleeping. They came and Rachel started crying, but she continued. Michael isn't here anymore. His children will grow up without a father. I'm widowed, but I'm raising my voice here, because Michael raised his voice, and I'm here so his voice won't be silenced. These men, these killers, they wore badges. We trusted them, and they used that trust to kill a good man. Please, please punish them with justice, for Michael, and so no other family suffers like we did. The courtroom was silent. Jury members were crying. Even the judge wiped his eyes. Defense lawyers objected. Mills is remorseful. He cooperated. He deserves a reduction. But the prosecutor countered. Mills committed crimes for 30 years, destroyed countless lives, and finally murdered an innocent. He deserves no reduction. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Verdict: all guilty, on every charge. Mills received life imprisonment, no parole. Other defendants received sentences between 20 and 40 years. The judge said in his final words, "This case shook society's trust in police, but at the same time it strengthened our faith in justice.